It being 6 o'clock, we're going to call this meeting to order.
Oh, that's a rip.
Agenda?
I'm going to turn this meeting over to Ms. Shea for the reorganization of the board.
I'll accept nominations for chairman, please.
I'll nominate Bruce Hughes.
Second.
Okay, take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. I'll
Thanks.
now turn it over to the chairman.
Thank you, guys. Well, we still have the other officers to do.
Yes. That's your bailiwick now, my
Okay.
friend.
We're looking for a nomination for the vice chair.
I'll make the motion, we leave it the same.
Anyone want to second that?
Second.
All those, oops. All those in favor?
Aye.
And I think we need the clerk. So nominations for clerk,
Same?
second.
Second.
Does the clerk still get a car this?
Get a
A
what?
car?
A
Yeah.
car?
Car, yeah.
It's gonna be a new EV one though, because we got those fabulous Chargers out back. So I don't know when the Tesla's getting here, but
I just bought a new gas-powered truck, so
So we didn't vote, we
just a
seconded,
polluter.
we second the vote?
you did.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, great. We have a lot of minutes tonight.
Yes, you do.
March 13th, April 3rd, February 6th, January 9th. Have you had a chance to read through them yet?
I sent them out early.
You want to do them as a whole, or you want to take them individually?
Well, I know what I would prefer, to vote for them as a whole, but
I'll make that motion unless somebody differs.
Second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do we have any Form As tonight, Liz?
We do not.
Okay. I suppose it's 6:05, so we can leave the rest of this,
Yeah,
okay?
yep.
Being 6:05, site plan amendment, 1457 Bedford Street, swapping grass strip areas. Anybody here from 1457 Bedford
No,
Street?
I told them that it was simple enough and they probably didn't need to attend.
Isn't he right there? Isn't he right there?
You've been, this
Dave?
gentleman here?
Yeah.
Johnson?
No, the owner's in the audience.
Oh, are you for 14, yes, you are 1437. I told, I didn't.
I'd recognize him.
Yeah, sorry, I was like, I didn't say anybody had to go. Yeah, no,
These guys have a way of bringing me back down to earth. in a-
Right?
in a
Flipping
Real
down
fast
from
way.
Olympus.
I told Amanda nobody had to attend because there's a, I didn't think it would be a big deal, but,
I'm here on curiosity of my own.
okay. All right, I think you guys all got my email that I received and a copy of the plan.
I had a little bit of trouble understanding where it currently is versus where it's going. Just wanted to clarify that, whether the colored in part that we received is where it's going versus where it was proposed.
All right, so they want to take 10 feet from the northern landscape strip
Okay. That's,
and move it to the southern side of the lot.
okay, so the southern side currently doesn't have a landscaping strip?
No.
Okay. And so the northern side is the one where you had the landscaping proposed?
Yes, and I think they need, the buses need an extra 10 feet on the northern side in order to fit into the area without encroaching into the access driveway.
Okay.
Southern side.
And we
Yeah,
have room
makes
on the
sense.
southern side to add a 10-foot grass strip to maintain the total landscape area.
Okay. So will there be any landscaping on the northern side?
I don't,
Yeah, down to 5
So
foot.
narrow the landscaping strip down to 5
5
feet?
foot width on the north.
yeah, 5 foot?
Okay. So there'll still be some, okay,
Yeah.
that's fine.
So I can confirm that when I email them, or you can confirm it? Okay.
So do we need to make action on that
You
tonight?
just need to take a vote that it's okay to make the change, to amend the site plan.
Someone want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion.
Second?
Second?
Motion made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
There you go, Gary.
Thank you.
I'll send them an email sometime this week confirming that. Okay,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Next up, close enough to 6:10. This is the site plan review for 657 Bedford Street continued. Mr. Riley.
Thank you, Chairman Hughes. Sean Riley, 501 Washington Street. I'm here with Dan Olwig, the design engineer for 657 Bedford Street. This, as you know, has been an ongoing site plan review process, and I think we're at the end at this point. Dan updated the site plans and submitted them, and Norwood Engineering issued a review letter last Thursday. Since then, Dan and Dave have been in communication. Dave had a couple of, mostly making sure that the detail on page 8 matched the drawing on page 3 type of thing. There was a couple that had to be tweaked, which I understand have been tweaked. Just to review, this is a project where we're proposing a 6-unit condominium on Bedford Street, Route 18.
Thank you.
A special permit's required from the zoning board, which we are not applying to the zoning board until the site plan is approved, because we'll be submitting that layout plan to the zoning board. This, as you recall, is in the highway commercial zoning district. Each dwelling unit, just a refresher, is 2-bedroom unit. Each dwelling unit will have a garage space and an outdoor parking space assigned to them, and then we'll have additional guest parking on site, so there'll be a total of 17 parking spaces for the 6 units. We worked with the fire department, met with them a number of occasions, and the final design, which you've seen the last couple of editions, is the one-way driveway loop that goes through. We maintain a 20-foot width, and there's a sheet in the submitted site plans that shows that the fire department vehicles can maneuver through the site safely. And we want to again thank the fire department for their ideas and their cooperation. In the end, the proposed project, the site plan that's before you, shows 41% lot coverage. We're required to keep it under 60%. We're down at 41%. Limited site lighting. We'll be installing a new cedar fence to enhance the property. And the landscaping plan indicates that we'll be planting 11 maple trees, 28 arborvitae trees, and 94 shrubs, consisting of inkberries, rhododendrons, and hydrangeas throughout the property. Currently, in existing conditions, there is no stormwater management system on the current property, which was a single-family house and a detached garage and a shed out back. So the water, when it rained, would typically flow out back towards the Frazier's house or to the north towards the medical building. We will be obviously putting in a stormwater management system, which Norwood Engineering has reviewed. So any flow off the property now will be reduced because we'll be retaining the water on our property. And obviously, we would suggest, and it's more of the use issue is a zoning board issue, but using this property, it is a residential use now. We're proposing it remain a residential use, and it is surrounded, or not surrounded, but on the southerly side, and immediately easterly side is our residential uses, and the medical office is right to our north. The issues that Dave had listed in his last review letter, as I mentioned, I'll let Dave speak to them because most of them are technical engineering things. But I think the site plan is now ripe for an approval if the board were to so choose. And to make it, really, I did this kind of an exercise for my own mind. I prepared what could be potentially the wording of a vote, which essentially, if you recall, what we were asking for was site plan approval and a waiver under section 175-47B to allow the driveways to be within 10 feet of the side lot lines. Under the zoning bylaw, the planning board can do that on site plan review. That allows us to have kind of the wider front yard area where we're putting the 4 maple trees in a pretty significant lawn area. And it just allows us to comply with the fire department's request for the layout. and also with Mass DOT's request regarding the curb cuts. That curb cut approval is still going through Mass DOT, and I noted that was one of Dave's conditions. So unless the board has any questions, Mr. Warwick is here tonight. This is owned by the same company that developed Marina Bay in Quincy. Mr. O'Connell was here in previous meetings. And upon your review, or your approval, I should say, of site plan and waiver of the driveway setback, as I mentioned, we would go to the zoning board for the special permit for the use. We would then run the project by the sewer board and the water board, and wait for Mass Highways approval before filing for a building permit. If there are any questions, we're here to answer. I would say the set of plans that was filed for you has since been updated based on Thursday's comment letter, which there is three sets here. Mostly just, as I mentioned, changes to the notes in the plan, no change whatsoever to the layout of the plan. But if you need to open them up and see them today, they're here. Otherwise, we will be finalizing with Norwood Engineering before filing for a building permit. I don't know if I missed anything, Mr. Johnson.
I was just looking, I can't remember, what does this look like from the street? There's an interior picture, but that doesn't really,
There's a sheet towards the back that shows an elevation.
okay.
13, yeah, it says, so you'll see along Route 18 will be the lawn area with basically the 4 maple trees that will grow over time, obviously. The existing house has already been renovated from the exterior, and then the 2 new buildings will be behind the existing house, so partially blocked by the existing house and, of course, the trees as they grow. There'll be a buffer along each of the back, where there is an existing fence already, but we're gonna be replacing it with a new wooden fence, and a fence will go between our property and the medical building property.
I was gonna, it could be obvious. Wanted to get an idea where the gas meters in this place, are we gonna see it from the street? I couldn't spot it, it was too small. I mean, I couldn't.
I don't
see
think
the
they're
gas
shown
lines
on the plan. It does show you where the water and sewer connections would be, which would be on the front house. It'll be where they exist now, which is coming on the side. If you're looking at the house, it's on the left side of the building.
Yeah.
And on the buildings to the rear, the sewer and water connections will be in the front, because the water and sewer line goes down that driveway.
So they'll probably come together. Unless it's coming from another direction, it'll probably,
The gas is on the far side of.
oh, on the right,
Bedford Street,
okay.
Eversource.
It would be, yeah, so it would be brought onto our site, and then I would, just assuming, it's gonna be a contractor issue and National Grid approval, but those would be, I'm assuming it would be on the side of the front building, not on the front,
Yeah.
and then likely either on the front or the side of the rear buildings.
The southern property line,
Yep.
it's a very tight squeeze. And I'm looking at the landscaping plan. I see that there's plantings about halfway up, so about even to where the existing neighbor's porch is. And then, is there anything proposed beyond that?
Yeah, there's, again, a fence, there's a retaining
Right.
wall we're putting on. What we're actually trying to do too is preserve that neighbor to immediate south is a residential house. They have paved the left side, the right side, and the front yard. The left side, actually, the pavement went over the lot line. We're trying to actually preserve that so that they don't have to delete their parking. But, that doesn't have,
Everybody good?
do you have the landscaping sheet here?
Chair?
What, do you have
Is that the plan then?
Oh. Oh,
Go to site plan.
Which sheet are you on?
7.
Seven. So Dan, he was asking what's
So
on
there's
it.
existing plants in this area, there's a retaining wall, and on top of the retaining wall, there's a 6-foot fence.
Yeah, so the existing plants on the site are like 70-foot pine trees, if I'm not mistaken, right? There's nothing, there's nothing down low for the first 30 feet, am I correct?
That's right.
Yeah, just to be a fence there,
So it's
right?
not, really- they're vegetation, they're green canopy, but not really a buffer of any sort, they don't block anything.
Existing conditions, yeah, and then with the proposed, yes, there'll be a fence there
There'll be a
underneath
fence
the
there,
canopy.
Under the
And the
canopy,
grade goes up like
Right.
8 feet there, so plus the 8 feet, there's a 6-foot fence
Right.
on the top of that, so we're up.
okay. I just wanna make sure.
Above eye level.
Yeah, so the green plantings, what I believe are the arborvitaes, goes, that first, I don't know, what, 50, 60 feet along the property
Yeah,
line?
yeah.
And then that's when the land starts to go up and,
Right. Right, so arborvitae's will be along, from the back of the neighbor's house all the way to towards the front, towards the street.
okay,
And all of the land behind our neighbors
Yep.
is untouched forest. right?
okay. And then, so that, in that back corner, that southeast, yep, how high is that retaining wall? Well, it's
About 8 feet.
8 feet, okay. And you're gonna use the same interlocking concrete
Yeah.
blocks that,
Yeah, there's a
Are
detail
popular.
sheet in there.
Okay.
There's
That
some,
was one change that Dave requested, was the grading of the guest parking was a little steep, so we raised the wall and lowered the grade at that point, and put a little bit of a wing wall here on the end, and I have that plan,
right,
change.
I talked with Mr. Frazier Saturday.
That was right here.
Mr. Frazier owns land directly to the rear of us. He's met Dan a couple of times. He was just actually asking us when we're gonna get our new fence up, because he has to repair the existing fence. And I told him, you might wanna repair it, because we're not gonna be putting up a fence in the next month or so. But he's fine.
is there any retaining walls along Mr. Frazier's
No.
property line? No?
No.
It's pretty flat there, it's just, okay.
He's been very supportive of this plan.
Okay.
I've met with him a couple times.
Yeah. So, a couple of just quick comments. One, I'm going to ask the board members to support an additional condition to this, which is any substantive changes to landscaping, elevations, design, needs to come back before here.
No worries, yep.
Again, I'm uncomfortable with it, I think it's heavy, but I think it also fits within the letter of the law. I think the saving grace of it is the very nice design, it's very attractive. It's a New England style architecture. You've taken obvious consideration to put shielding to trees in key places, so it's not gonna have a big visual impact on the road. I mean, I think that's what really, to me, makes it work. I think the other reason it makes it work is because you have this little tail hanging off of the land that counts towards all the acreage and all the minimums, but doesn't actually really contribute to the site at all. I mean, it's different watersheds, it's, you know, a ridge, you know, I don't think it, you know, I think it gets there, but not quite as intended, but there's nothing we can do about that. I mean, it's a classic pork chop sideways type lot, and, you know, that extra footage doesn't add anything, doesn't make it less dense, it doesn't reduce the density or any sort of clustering, it's just kind of like, it's a technicality.
Yeah,
Like Mr. Frazier's
Yeah.
told me, he said he likes that concept because that's where the deer goes, up on
Yeah.
that hill, in that area. And it's open space for all the houses that
Yeah.
are residences around it.
Yeah, but like the lot coverage issue where it's like, yeah, technically you meet it, but, you know, but 100% of the,
Yeah, if you didn't have that.
yeah, if you didn't have that, you
Yeah.
don't meet the lot
That's
coverage.
right, yeah.
No,
So-
I'll tell you, one of our first drawings was to put some parking up in that area behind the other houses, and we didn't like it, and and figured the neighbors wouldn't like it either. So we're, by able to maintain that as in its natural condition, it's a essentially, it's a permanent buffer for the existing residences, not only on Route 18 on Bedford Street, but also the ones that are out behind it.
Yeah. All right,
I'm
that's all.
I hear what you have to say. Question is up. I'm wondering if arborvitaes have proven themselves to just die and fall over in the wind and snow and everything else. Is there another type of cedar that's got is a little more hardy?
Well, I use often these green giant arborvitaes,
Yeah.
and they're not the arborvitaes that spread out. They're very compact and they grow slow, but then when they mature, they're beautiful. I mean, they're Sylvan Nursery down in Westport carries hundreds of them. I mean, and they're deer resistant.
Yeah, I was just going to say, you said there were deers at the top of the hill. I know that all mine gone.
Yeah.
I might suggest you could add, I mean, we call out one of the species of arborvitaes, I think it's Thujalis or whatever. The green giant species, which you just referenced, is deer resistant. I have them in my yard. They're known to be deer resistant. You see the other versions where they're eaten for the first 6 feet.
Yeah.
And the first year when you plant them, the roots go down. The second year, the shoots go up. The good thing about the green giant version, it has 1 leader instead of 2. So you'll see in some of the other
Oh, yeah.
other arborvitaes in a heavy snowstorm, they'll split and they'll fall.
Yeah.
Arborvitaes won't do that because there's only 1 leader. And the green will then grow, the green giant arborvitaes will grow usually, literally, 1 foot to 2 feet per year after the first year of rooting.
Yeah.
So they're a great screen, especially in New England, because of their deer resistance. The deer will eat them if they're starving,
Yeah.
I mean, literally, but otherwise, they stay away from them.
All right, well, it's good to know. Thank you. Keep that in mind for other
Yeah.
projects that come in.
Green giants, that's the way to go.
A couple of quick questions. So there was a meeting on the 26th, Dave?
Back in January.
Yep, back
Yep.
in January. And so I know that one of the concerns that the board had previously was the number of items that we had in the prior review.
Yep.
And so the number, sheer number has come down significantly, which is great. I do notice that from the March 1st correspondence to the April 26th correspondence, or letter from the board, there's a few items here that are unchanged. Item 1, the stormwater, items 1 and 2 on the grading are the same comments that were made back on March 1st. And so just, is there any reason why those were not resolved? Does that represent a problem or an issue of some kind?
No, please, if anyone, engineers want to correct how my answer, please do so. Like, for example, the elevation datum, excuse me.
Yeah.
When Dan met with the sewer department, they said to use a certain elevation based off an existing manhole or benchmark, I'm sorry.
As built plans. of
Yeah.
sewer.
So that's what he related to, and I think Dave was asking for something more than that, in addition to that, I believe, right? I don't know how to speak the language. But the note is on the plan showing where the benchmark is so that the sewer elevations are appropriate, so they do flow the right way, they flow downhill. The issue, there was a comment about separating the water and sewer lines by 10 feet, and I talked to the DPW office. They require that on the mains in the street, and we also carried that forward in the mains in the driveway, but they said the services don't have to be 10 feet apart. They suggest that you keep them apart when you connect to a house, in case you have to do maintenance on one, you don't have to disturb the other. So all of them are separated, the services, you can see them on the plan. They're not all 10 feet apart, but they are all
They're all
separate.
10 feet now. I did go ahead and change
Oh,
them.
did you? Okay, so now they're all 10 feet everywhere.
Yeah.
On a related topic, did you ever hear back from the water department?
No, well, I know that currently they're still on hold with anything more than a single family, so they suggested that we submit our water service application, and they're basically gonna keep a waiting list. The other thing we're looking at is, okay, what about the usage of wells for properties like this? I mean, wells haven't been used in Abington for a long, long time, so something we have to go back and talk with the Board of Health, and is there enough water to service the 6 two-bedroom units?
So you did hear back?
We heard that you should just apply and
Okay.
file the application, but, and they weren't, we just had the election last weekend, so I think they're kind of also holding to see if they can get the full board to discuss what to do. We don't anticipate them issuing a water approval in the next month or two, but honestly, we're not rushing it. We have to go to the zoning board, as I mentioned. The sewer board, I mentioned it to them, they don't have a meeting scheduled, so we still have a few more months of permitting to go. Hopefully, the water situation will cure, not only for this project, but for all commercial development in Abington.
Just to close the loop on the prior question, we don't anticipate any issues with getting the items that were detailed in the April 26th letter resolved. Stormwater.
You want me to jump in?
utility-
Yeah, you can answer that.
We've been in contact with Sean and Mr. Orwig since Thursday, and we discussed these items. They've submitted some revised plans to us, and I can say that at this point, all of these items have been addressed. So
Thanks, Dave.
that's where we are. They've
Good.
Anything else on the board on this?
So we are requesting, if the board is of that mind, to vote for site plan approval based on the recently submitted plans. These updates will be submitted also, but I've written it out, you can take what you want, but in the bold is basically to approve the site plan for 657 Bedford Street, to grant the waiver under 175-47B2 to allow the entrance and exit driveways to be less than 10 feet off the side lot lines, as shown on the plan. The approval is to be subject to the standard conditions, which I copied there, but I don't think you have to recite them, and the resolution of all matters listed in Norwood Engineering's review letter dated April 26, including the 6 special conditions which were listed therein, and I copied those down there just for your reference, to remind us what they were. But basically, they have to be approved by water, they have to be approved by sewer, Mass DOT, all the comments have to be resolved, which Dave just said they pretty much are. Do a pre-construction meeting, and the location of gas line and utilities will be approved by the utility companies.
I'm sorry, one other question. Do you anticipate any issues during construction, considering you're building right on Route 18, and there's not gonna be a lot of room to maneuver in and out? Are you gonna be able to host everything on site, and
Yeah.
you're not gonna have to take a half a lane or anything to do stuff, or?
I can't think of any reason why they would. I mean, at some point, they have to tap into the
Right.
into the utilities on Route 18. I trust Mr. O'Connell and Marina Bay Management have done frankly, much larger projects than this, so they bring a pretty good track record to this project. And no, I don't anticipate that we're gonna be closing down Route 18 just for this project.
To add to them, my experience has been, you have the access permit, which deals with the curb cuts, the radius, radii, and those type of issues. I believe that Mass DOT also requires a separate permit for installation of utilities and work in the right-of-way, and as part of that, you have to submit a traffic management plan that shows location of cones, signage that, says road work ahead. So I think at some point, they're going to get into preparing that traffic management plan when they, or before they start the utility work.
Yeah, I guess my concern is, they leave a trailer there for a couple of days while the Bobcat's off digging up something, or there's some roll-offs while they're hauling away the side of the hill that they gotta take out, or anything like that. I don't know if there's a concern for anybody else, but that's kind of one of my last-minute concerns. If we need to have any sort of construction plan, or is that part of the meeting?
Dave's right, I mean, I've dealt with some of the Mass DOT road opening permits, and they're specific to the point where you have to have a road work ahead sign, a minimum of 75 feet down the road, or 100 feet. They'll specify what it has to be, the size of any arrows to be used, things like that. You know, again, I think we're gonna be tapping into water, sewer, and gas being the one on the far side, right? So it's not gonna be kind of a week-long, you know, work in the roadway.
And if you don't get water within 2 years, we have to come back to redo the waiver? Does the waiver expire?
The waiver really doesn't expire, it's more of the special permit from the zoning board, and that's why we are holding off. That's basically a 3-year special permit. I haven't heard any updates from the water department, because I don't think they have any updates at this point. But we are one of several entities that are asking them, what's the plan?
So we have two motions here. We need to close the site plan review hearing. Correct, Ms. Shea?
And then if you could actually grant the waiver separately, and then the site plan, so 3 votes. One to close the public hearing, one to grant the waiver if you so desire, and one to approve the site plan with the conditions in Dave's letter of April 26th. If you could actually also include on the special conditions, the proposed water and sewer designs are to be approved by the appropriate departments prior to the issuance of a building permit. And if we could add that a letter be provided to the planning board for the administrative record, so we have something from them saying that it was okay.
From the water and sewer department?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of similar to
Yep.
the MassDOT. And then Rick wanted to add any substantive changes. And I think the pre-construction meeting that either I attend or a member of the board attends, if we could add that too.
Okay, I'd like to have a motion to close the hearing.
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now, on the second thing, the waiver,
Do the conditions go on the waiver, or do they go on the?
Conditions go on the site plan.
On the site plan? Okay.
would someone like to make that motion?
That is the waiver to allow entrance and exit driveways to be less than 10 feet off the side lot lines.
Yep.
Right. So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then the third one would be motion to approve the site plan dated 3/18 with the stormwater calcs dated 3/31, contingent upon the resolution of the items in the Norwood engineering letter dated 4/26. With the amended, with the standard and special conditions, including the amendments with, is that letter to be provided for the administrative record, that somebody from the planning board or the assistant town planner will be at the pre-construction meeting, and any substantive changes to the approved site plan will return to the board for review.
Is it necessary for one of us to be at the pre-construction meeting?
It can be either me or one of you guys, or both.
Norwood Engineering's gotta be there, I guess is my point.
Yeah, but I would prefer that somebody else be there as well, and it can be me, that's fine.
I was gonna say it's something
Yep.
we haven't done in the past.
That was my recommendation, primarily because of the issues going along, the time that it took to get the plans finalized and resolved, that and some of the inconsistencies during the permit review process, that it would be prudent to have a pre-construction meeting and kind of go over what needs to be done, and if there are any inconsistencies or changes in the construction, that we set up a procedure for notifying myself and notifying the town of any, site plan changes, not site plan changes to the general configuration, but to utility placement and those types of issues.
I think it would be good to have eyes from the board, just to see, visualize with it.
I
think it's a good practice in general to have,
Yeah.
to be included where we feel appropriate more often. Because we get the questions.
I think it's great. We don't mind at all. And we likely, to be honest with you, we probably won't even start, there's a chance we won't start construction, my client won't start construction until next year. I think they're kind of also trying to weigh out the economy and the cost of construction right now.
So I'll make that motion as said by Liz.
I'll second. Did you say it or first?
The motion's been made, seconded.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for your patience. Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your
You're
assistance.
welcome.
Thank you, Liz, for your patience. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean, congratulations.
Here's three, Dave,
Right.
here's three sets of those, Brett.
Okay.
Those changes.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Do you want to look at one?
Too many times.
So this has all the changes on there.
It's a different type of engineer. We haven't had an engineer like this before. There's a different kind of group.
Yeah, there's some stuff in there that I like.
Zoning board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. These should be complete, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Okay,
Okey-doke.
next item on the agenda was correspondence.
We can just skip to these gentlemen right here, which is the stormwater compliance. We can go back to correspondence if you
Okay,
want.
gentlemen.
So I think you guys remember Mr. Kennedy
Good evening.
and Mr. Spath? Okay. And there you have, I think you have the letter from Hardy and Mann Design Group, which I think I sent you a copy of this, dated April 13th. The review of the stormwater. And they are asking for a 3% reduction waiver from the stormwater requirements. I guess we'll do this in phases, so that's the first thing.
You all set?
I'm all set, yep. I guess I can add at this point is that when Mr. Rourke had this subdivision, all the engineering fees were absorbed by him, the process that it took to get to the approval. So, as a matter of fact, I had to send him a bill later on for $500 or $600 that he still owed us. But at this point, we have zero review fees for anything for that project. So that's sort of going to be, I guess, the second part of the first, I don't know. So I guess I'm just giving you guys the information that They're asking for a waiver of the stormwater regulations or portion, not the whole thing. And that we have no review fees, so we should probably discuss that tonight. I have an estimate from Dave on what the whole process would take to get to an as-built review to go to town meeting for roadway acceptance.
Okay.
I also then, upon the request, got a fee schedule from PMP, which I can share with you tonight as well.
What was that last part, I'm sorry?
I also got a fee schedule from PMP. I got a fee schedule from
Oh, okay.
Norwood Engineering and a fee schedule from PMP at their request for the fees that they charge for the engineers and the surveyors and all that stuff. But Norwood did provide a comprehensive cost estimate.
I saw that.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess that's where we are.
Yeah. Okay.
So to your point, if you talk about stormwater first,
Yep.
so the history is, we kind of asked to go back and have the stormwater review, which you've done.
We have hired Sean Hardy from Hardy Engineering to review the 100-plus pages of stormwater design.
Yep.
And there were 2 items that we needed to work on trying to comply with the new requirements. One was the overflow on a 100-year storm. We're able to achieve that by changing an invert on one of the structures. The second one is the TSS removal rate. I think it's required to be 90% and we're 87%, so we're within 3%. And by making the change to the invert, we exceed what the planning board originally approved as well. So we're very close on compliance with the stormwater, and we're asking for a waiver on that, considering the circumstances of how this has come about.
And those are the items that Mr. Hardy detailed in his correspondence of April 13th.
Correct. Yes.
His items seem pretty clear. I know that Liz sent it to the review engineer, and he said it needed more clarity, but these 2 items seem rather clear comparing them to the approved plans, and we're very close to the new required compliance. I believe the homes are going to have roof drains as well, which will help handle water within the lots. So that's, yes, we can talk about the fees that Liz and I have corresponded about, but that's the first thing is the stormwater.
Yep, so was the email from Dave dated April 26th, indicates that Norwood does not have benefit and clear understanding of what the proposed changes are in order to give an estimate for review. And I think that's where we're at, is that we've got this representation, which sounds reasonable. Now we have to have this reviewed by Norwood.
That's not what we talked about at the last meeting. You said if we got a letter from our engineer stating that we were within a certain percentage of compliance, that would be acceptable. Did not say that we had to hire a review engineer, even though this letter seems very clear. I don't know what the engineer would need to review it. It says all the 2 items right here. So we weren't anticipating hiring a review engineer to review the stormwater that we just paid another engineer to review that we didn't even anticipate. That's not, when we left that last meeting, that was not the understanding.
Well, I think actually the understanding was if you came back and your engineer said you were fully compliant, it would be okay, but that's not what his letter said.
It did not say.
I don't think anybody here said if you were a percentage compliant,
I
that,
think you're right, percentage, but if we were close to compliance.
I
then we
don't
would-
even think they said that, but we could go back and look at it. I mean, I don't know why they would say that, right? I think it was,
Because
the
of
word was
circumstance.
compliance.
Because of the circumstance.
Okay, well, I think the word was compliance, not almost or a certain percentage or,
So
I
we're
mean, I'm not trying to
controlling a
put
lot of
words-
water on our property. Is that what you guys, the board is suggesting?
As far as my concern, thing is that the percentage is so close when every day, or I mean, every month around here, we're constantly telling people they can build inside of a flood zone. So, and I can't answer that, so I don't see why this percentage difference would make a difference. My real concern is when they strip the trees, whether it caused any water damage to anybody around the area. And if that water's being, you're at kind of a disadvantage. I'm finding out now that the previous owner, well, you would have followed it all the way through, but he skipped, and you've got you picked up what he left off.
Yep.
I also feel that these, better in the change of ownership as well, so, as far as getting things done. But I don't have a problem with 3%. I mean, again, there's these arbitrary decisions.
I'm just saying that was not the conversation. It was
No, I know, but
the
whether...
letter back and forth, and now he's,
But does that, no, that's fine.
Yeah,
Does that
no.
mean whether or not we have to have an engineer? I'm just talking, because I kind of agree, we just sort of, if we were going to get into if we were going to require that Dave from this point forward have to be a monitoring engineer, the only part of I thought I heard was following along to get to the as-bills, which you've got to do.
We will be doing that.
Yes, yeah, and so we're not going to review it, so Dave or PMP or somebody like that would have to review that, so there definitely is going to be a fee in there anyway, but I think you've already acknowledged that, other than whether you need fee to do water management, have someone look over all the numbers again. That's what I think what you were saying. You were saying that we don't need another engineer to look over all the numbers, because this engineer just did it and came up with the percentages that he's got.
That's
Yeah.
what we're saying, yes.
I don't mean to cut you off, but could I just add that the state required level is 80%, so we've actually exceeded the state required level by 7%. I think Abington's at 90. However, we are compliant.
Yeah, I don't know. how
More
they
than
come up
compliant with the
numbers.
state.
And, yeah, it's hard to know where the numbers come in, plus they're blanket numbers. Every square foot is
well,
not
the
the same.
stormwater is coming from the town's adopted stormwater bylaw,
Yeah, I
which
know,
was
but it was
required
just-
under the MS4 permit. So that's where that 90% number is coming from.
Yeah, I know, but that piece of property will drain different than that piece of property will drain different. I mean, it's all relevant. I mean, it's all relevant to the particular, it's a blanket statement. That's all it is. It's just that we gotta be compliant. Well, maybe that piece of property is compliant and that one isn't, and they're all, I mean, to be within the numbers that they gave out there, if someone had to come up with a number, it's like that arbitrary number we have, how many liquor stores we have. It's the same thing, it's just the number. It doesn't mean anything, so.
I'm just
Unless-
saying that was
is there an
under the
issue with
MS4
them
permit.
directly? I mean, should I be giving them a hard time? I'm not really sure what's going on here.
No, I'm just telling you,
Okay.
it's, the number, the 90%
Oh, I
came
didn't
from
know
our
something that you guys have been a
MS4
pain in the ass,
stormwater.
and I should be a pain in the ass, I didn't know.
No, I'm just saying that that's where the number came from. It's not necessarily like somebody pulled it out of the air. That 90% number comes from the stormwater bylaw we had to
Yeah,
adopt
and I'm
under the
saying
MS4
there,
permit.
They came up with 10,000 answers to it all. It came up with a number somewhere in the middle. It just, that's where it is, it's just
I
an
don't know where they
arbitrary number.
came up with it, we just had to comply with it.
Well, reasonably, it has to be. Every single element is different from one area to another. It has to be different. There's no way in the world they could come up with an absolute number that worked for every single area and that covered every single area. There's property near me that's all rock underneath. That's a whole different scheme. Actually, it's where you come on to, when you get onto the extension, whatever they want to call it there. I was going to say raspberry, whatever they call it. But I'm saying, water flows 100% different underneath that than anywhere else. They've got water bubbling up and running over the surface in those areas. And you're up in a really wooded area. So I don't know. I'm just saying that overall, I refuse to be a bureaucratic person who says it is 90% and these geniuses said 90% is where we got to be. I'm just going to be like, whatever. I'm willing to say that I'm willing to put my house on the line to say you can go ahead and nothing's going to happen. So I don't see how 3% is going to make a heck of a difference unless we're talking 3% of the Empire State Building where we're really talking tremendous amount of water. Or if you were draining down into a river or anything else that you could possibly overload. But I'm just saying, we constantly just make arbitrary statements that we say, oh, you can build inside the wetland area. I mean, not the wetland area, but the
Floodplain.
It's done all the time.
Well, we certainly are here trying to work with you. I think that was the way that we left the meeting last time is, well, because the engineer, the SciTech that did the original plan, they actually sold to a nationwide company, so there's no way we could go back and have them review it. So Liz was nice enough to get us copies of what was submitted to you guys, and we got it to Hardy to review, and it took quite a while, but this is what he came up with. You know, I might suggest that if this was the route that you guys were thinking that it needed to be reviewed, maybe the better plan at the beginning was we just hire the consulting engineer to review it and see where we come in, but now here we are, we're trying to move forward desperately, we'd like to get this thing going. It's spring going into summer, now's the time to go. And, you know, we're not trying to be adversarial here, but we also we're hoping to be.
Yeah, I don't, my sense is that the board doesn't want to be adversarial either. What I was talking about, I think, is fairly standard practice on our side. So you saw it just play out here. So there's engineering representation from the town, there's engineering representation from the developer. And the developer puts something on the table, and then the town doesn't accept that at face value without question. We're not engineers. We don't have the expertise to look at this and say, this is...
No, I understand. I guess the point that I was trying to make, and I don't mean to cut you off, is that Hardy is a complete third-party engineer, didn't do the design, is not involved in this project, or any of the design aspects of the project, reviewed it as a third party, and then put his engineering stamp on it.
Sure,
and,
sure.
you know, to me, that's worth something. The guy's,
Absolutely.
you know, we don't have a relationship with this guy. He's not going to make up numbers to try to, I mean, as a matter of fact, if he was going to make up numbers, he would have said it's 90%.
Yeah, if he was going to make up numbers, then
Right,
he'd
so-
lose his license.
Right, well, that's what I mean, but that's basically what I'm getting to, is I take this as a professional third party that has stamped it with his professional license, and
I agree.
I take it as the truth.
I agree.
And because of the situation that we are in, we're dying to move forward here.
Yep.
I don't know if going through, you know, I guess I ask that you maybe consider that 3%, and let's not go through the whole costly and time lengthy process, I guess, of reviewing the 100 and something pages of calculations to probably come up with what's 86, not 88. You know, we're kind of splitting hairs there. And if we had put this in 2 years ago, or it had gone in 2 years ago, it would have gone in at that rate, and it probably wouldn't have made a difference.
So I really don't want to get into the habit of weakening our stormwater bylaws so quickly, but I feel like this falls into a special category of projects that were approved before we adopted the bylaws,
Yeah,
but
no
haven't
question.
yet broken ground after they took effect.
No question.
And I think this might be the only one in town. I would feel a lot more concerned if it didn't meet the DEP minimum standard, but it exceeds that. And again, we're not talking an auto repair shop where you're gonna have a lot of things spilling on the ground. We're talking about 5 suburban homes.
Yep.
So 87%, I'm sure it's gonna be okay. Regarding the 100-year storm, if there's a 100-year storm, everything's wet. I mean, what are we really gonna be concerned about? There's not gonna be a flash flood. This isn't, you know.
Well,
This
again, I
is
don't mean to
holding
cut
back
you off,
legality,
but
but-
we've addressed that. We'll make those changes.
Yeah, but I mean, even still, it's just like 100-year storm, everything's wet. I mean, who knows what's gonna happen? I mean,
Right.
it's just, I don't, there's enough concerns about the project, no offense, that two of the things are at the bottom of my list to be worried about, and I'm okay accepting this letter, personally. Because for those specific reasons, again, I don't want to use this as a
Sure.
template for,
Just so you know, though, there are other projects out there. They're gonna have to come back.
yeah, which ones?
Rose Place is one of them.
I think we look at it the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, if they're playing along a technicality, and that wasn't the way they approached the property, they got the property approved what, and they're
It
going
was
ahead
also
still on.
approved in 2008,
Which one was
Rose
Rose's?
Place.
And I do buy into their argument that this is a second group that's looking at the engineering plans from who originally designed it, so. You know, if this was SciTech coming back, I would say, well, but, you know, I don't know if it's gonna be worth spending the $4,000, $5,000 to get the same result, so,
And honestly, I've got real respect for SciTech,
yeah.
you know.
Well, I mean, and if that's the general sense of the board, then I don't have any issue with that, that's fine.
Any thoughts?
Any comment, Dave?
No, Liz asked me to look at it and really couldn't give you an estimate to re-review it, and I can't really review what they've said to verify it because I don't have the data that they use to make that assessment. As Jeff said, these numbers that they generate are based on, I guess, testing of stormwater systems in terms of removal of solids. And I would say that near enough is close enough, I think, in terms of the TSS removal. As far as the 100-year storm event, I have no idea without looking at what was previously approved and what they based their numbers on.
What do they call 100-year, I mean, I thought that kind of, I mean, now 100 years storms happen all the time.
But I think, is it eight for Abington, 8.2 inches
That's
in a
8.2.
24-hour period? Well, Florida had a 1,000-year storm just recently with their 22 inches and,
Wow.
or 20 inches in
Oh, I see.
24
Okay.
hours.
So definitions of
They're
inches.
becoming more and more
Yeah.
Frequent.
frequent with
Yeah.
global warming.
Hmm.
I guess my comment is, I guess I don't want to be making a habit of it.
No.
So I think everybody else needs to be very clearly made aware of, because I don't want people coming in here and asking for waivers on stormwater and
I agree.
Yep.
Well, I don't like waivers being asked of people who are, you know, we're not technically, shouldn't be commenting on stuff like that. All right, whatever.
Do we need a motion?
Yeah.
All right, so make a motion to accept the findings of what's contained in the Hardy Man Design Group letter and not require a third-party review? Does that cover it?
Well, and grant the waiver.
To grant a waiver?
Yep.
For, of the town's stormwater rules? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I think we'd also just want to make, in that vote, the change that's recommended in this letter is the change in the size of the.
All right, let me try this again. Move that planning board approve a waiver of the town's stormwater rules, provided that the project meet the recommendations of the April 13th letter from Hardy Design Group.
Yes, seems reasonable. Thank you.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Seconded?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, so David has left, but he provided.
Something you said?
Hmm?
Something you said?
Yeah, absolutely, I told him to get out of it. He provided the cost to follow this through to, which I can't find now.
It's the April 26th correspondence, estimate for observation and review services, definitive subdivision lot in English Way.
Voila.
Could I ask the board that if Jay and I could discuss our engineering options and maybe get back to Liz with who you would decide to have do the engineering? However, in the meantime, we can come in with the required retainer for whomever we decide, whomever is hired to do the review work. Do we get a choice of which engineering company?
Right now you can pick between Norwood Engineering, who was just here, or PMP Consulting, which I think I sent it to you today,
Yeah,
right?
I just saw that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, and I think I also included in my email that PMP can certainly choose them, but they would then need the plans, the stormwater calcs, everything, because Norwood Engineering has been working on this project, and they did the subdivision review, and PMP has not. So they would have to go back and look at the whole thing to familiarize themselves with the project before they could start.
Was this gentleman?
That was Dave from Norwood Engineering.
I thought he just said he didn't have the stormwater stuff, though.
Well, the stuff that you, from.
He
for this
doesn't have
letter.
it. I sent him the letter from Hardy Man, and he said he couldn't review it because he didn't have the stormwater.
Right, but I thought.
Because
but-
it's probably at Norwood Engineering on site. And that file's probably gone because we're the keeper of the records, and he's working from home now part-time,
Okay,
because it was so far back.
If I could add to that.
so essentially, he's starting from scratch as well.
Yeah, well, if I could add to that, nothing gets past Dave, but nothing ever gets past PMP. The gentleman that owns, he's still involved?
I'm
Mike?
not sure.
Okay.
We're not
Well-
trying to get anything by anybody.
No,
We're just trying to-
No.
You could open up a can of worms with another engineer who is super crazy about water. And before all the storm management, it was a contingent, it was an issue a lot. You gotta really make sure everything was done correctly.
Sure.
He did, I mean,
Jeffy-
he didn't have the calculations with him, but he
Yeah.
did that whole site plan, subdivision approval for the board. All those letters
Yep.
are from Norwood Engineering, and they're from Dave.
Okay.
So that, I'm just providing you with that information.
Sure.
If I may,
But,
I think Dave meant he didn't have Hardy's calculations.
Right.
Yeah.
To compare to.
Jeff, are you talking about Mike Pearl from PMP?
Yes.
He's retired now.
Okay.
Somebody else bought that company.
But he was still
He's not involved now.
doing no, he was. I don't know if he is not today, but he was up until like a year ago, still doing some part-time gigs from his job down in Maryland or something.
That's what I heard too.
But
Just so you know.
on a whole, it was
Patrick.
Patrick.
Yep. Patrick's
Oh,
still there.
Patrick still works there.
Yep.
Does he?
Patrick was doing most of, Mike was still involved, I don't know if he still is.
I think I've seen Mike once in 8 years.
Right, it was
I
Patrick.
think Mike actually did the stormwater at 75 Dale Street, if I remember correctly.
Yes.
I would agree with Jeff, but it's up to you guys.
With which part? With which part?
I would agree with Jeff on
Oh,
Norwood Engineering is more familiar with what's going on there. And you ask PMP to start, it's gonna be starting from scratch.
And so, I'm not sure I understood the request you were making earlier.
Well, I just basically was asking, do we have to decide tonight, or can Jay and I talk about it and just let Liz know tomorrow or the next day? And as long as we need to come in and fund the account, we understand that.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common process,
To make
which we're
this-
happy to do.
To make a decision about who you'd like to have do the review,
Correct,
is that what you mean?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, just so we can talk about it a bit.
Okay, okay,
I saw the stuff, we haven't even talked about.
yeah, okay, okay.
No, and I just want to be clear on the, that funding the reviewing engineer account is different than releasing the lots, releasing them from the covenant and setting up a surety or a bond for that.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, of course.
I'm sure you know that, but I just want to be clear on the different piles of money.
Did you, speaking of, do you have a height on the pile of money that's required for the, to fund the review engineer?
Yeah, he said it was,
12 to 14.
estimated cost $12,000 to $14,000.
So we come in bring in just let us know.
I mean, if you want to come in with 13,
Okay,
we fund the account, and then when it gets to 12.5,
yeah.
I let him know, and then
Yeah, we
you
just
guys
needed,
know.
we need a number to
Yep.
start. Yes,
Yep.
that's what I'm getting at. Okay. So if that's okay with you guys, if that's acceptable to the board, then we'll figure it out and let us know tomorrow.
That's fine, and I'll get you a letter. I'll send you an email sometime this week about the waiver
Okay.
for your files, and I'll file it with the town clerk to go through subdivision. Okay?
Out of curiosity, when do you plan on completing site clearing?
The clearing was done before we
It's
came
all-
in. Oh, yeah. Yeah, we have, it's been stumped. It's been, before this even became an issue, that work
Okay.
had been done.
All right.
So we're itching to get in there and get moving. The weather's on our side now.
Frankly, I expected, I've gone out to the track, I expected to see more down, so.
No, that's
That's
it.
it.
There's a 25-foot, I
Yeah,
think, buffer
25.
between the fields and the property, so.
As just a neighbor, I gotta tell you, the contractors come up and down the street have been nothing but great. They just come through, you don't have to worry about them speeding or making a noise, or the kids or anything, it's great.
Yeah.
They've all been pretty
we,
good.
Try to hammer that into the drivers.
Yeah.
Big trucks through neighborhoods.
Yeah, because that neighborhood in particular will definitely hear from if there's an issue.
Okay.
So we've been doing okay so far.
Yeah.
All right, well,
But Jeff's gonna keep on it.
So based upon the way we're going to proceed here, there's really no motion that needs to be made or no?
No, so you
nothing we
made the
need-
motion
nothing more we need
to
do.
grant the waiver.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get a letter, file it with town clerk, get you guys a copy, and you guys are gonna let me know who you choose to do
the engineer.
the engineering review, and once that happens, I'll put him in contact with you guys, and you guys can arrange whenever you need to have him out there and observe.
Okay.
All right?
Super.
Okay?
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Okay, getting back to the agenda, was there any correspondence?
It was not.
Zoning Board of Appeals agenda.
Is it improper to ask for a letter of support for my project?
For what?
My project's on there.
I was gonna say, I would like to draw everybody's attention. What? No. To the project at 74 Orange Street?
Yes.
I think we should give that special attention.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought we were gonna approve the waste management.
Is that what you're saying to me?
When are we gonna do the trash for transfer station over there in Orange Street?
Yeah.
What are you doing?
You got the roadway.
Yeah, you got a tough one.
I believe, I'm sorry,
Nothing much, I'll ask you.
the Washington Street property, that was originally a tattoo shop a couple owners ago.
Where is 491?
That's where District 10 was originally.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
was, it was a tattoo shop before that.
Yeah.
So it's reverting back to a tattoo shop.
Different one, right?
Yeah.
It seems easy to open up a business. To open up a business,
You guys got nothing for that,
you know?
except recommending 74 Orange Street?
Heartily.
Really, with all of that, it just comes down to lighting and
Oh, wait,
how terrible the signs are, you know, signage.
Actually, I think I prefer that the planning board doesn't recommend my project. That might be better.
Probably a good idea.
You're probably right.
Probably a good idea. All right, so I have no update on MBTA communities, except I was invited to, from Mass Housing Partnership, the 25 commuter rail communities that have received technical assistance, and I cannot say that again, have been invited to do a webinar and discuss how the process has been going with each community. So all I got for you now is we're still where we were.
So is it underway, though?
I reached out to her, and like in mid-April, and I said, so are you planning to come to Abington? And she's like, I can't get a hold of this one or that one, so I'm gonna reach back out to her, because we gotta have it wrapped up by June 30th.
Yeah.
Not that
We don't have anything
not that this
outstanding, right?
board is not gonna move forward after June 30th with some public hearings and, you know, having conversations about it, because everybody will have to be well-educated before next spring. But the information from our technical assistants needs to be in our hands by then, so. And the plan is to have do it at a selectmen's meeting. I hope along with the hazard mitigation, it'll be 2 balls, 2 birds, 1 night. So I got my fingers crossed for that. I'm not sure if any of this is in the master plan goals, because I didn't look, but we're gonna get heat mapped. The city of Brockton received a grant from NOAA, and because their square mileage isn't big enough, OCPC is including Abington and Avon to get heat mapped. This is gonna happen end of July, beginning of August. They're gonna hook us up with a weather person to determine the best date. They'll come up with routes, and then teams will go out, and it'll be 3 times in that one day with the weather equipment on your vehicle. And you drive around and you collect all the data, and then there's a consultant out in Oregon that's gonna crumble up all the data and get back to us where our hot spots are.
Hotspots meaning literally like the pavement gets really hot.
Pavement gets hot where we could use some trees,
Gotcha.
stuff like that.
Oh, I gotta come up with a business like that. Talk about
Right?
making, well, how can I make money?
And then the other thing is, we got an email from OCPC today, and as part of the regional planning agencies throughout their state, they're mapping trails. So they had Ames, Knoll, Island Grove,
Is this in
Rail
Milton?
trail.
and the rail trail already in, but I added
Yeah.
Griffin's, and then somebody else came up with something else that I'm gonna forward them. I forwarded it to the Open Space and Recreation and Park and Rec committees and asked for their input, and then when I get that back, I'll send it back to OCPC. But that's exciting too.
Yeah.
That's interesting with the rail trail, because Hanover is part of OCPC, and they're continuing that rail trail. Have you noticed that
Yep,
they finally are continuing that rail trail?
moving along.
Yeah.
Right off of 139?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay, I did see that, yeah.
Which is great.
How far down does it go? To the old sawmill or whatever that place was?
Oh, the,
Old industrial park, used to be a Tedeschi's warehouse and stuff like that in there.
I think a long, long time ago, there were fireworks down there.
Well, that was on the other side of this.
Oh, was it the
my
other side of
nephew-
this road?
Yeah, my nephew lives down off of Birch Drive.
There you go.
So that was your update as the
That was
assistant
all
town?
I got. I thought that's easier than trying to throw stuff on the agenda that I don't know I'm gonna have,
Well, you keep it going.
right?
Yeah.
Anybody else want to talk about anything else tonight?
One other item that, there was a couple of public hearings by a development company that's handling Southfield. And modifications to zoning were approved. And they're working with the town of Weymouth now, and the rough timeline for them to show up at our doorstep was this fall, when they'd come in specifically starting to want to talk to us about Abington's parcel and what the future for that is going to be, so.
I actually think that's part of why we're having a fall town meeting.
Yeah, I mean.
That's
Abington-
it, and the fire station.
Abington
is my
only wanted residential, I mean, actually, Abington didn't want residential. What?
They did not want
Want
residential.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and what the developer is essentially saying is that you're going to have to give us the latitude to build whatever is most economically viable at the time that we build.
Or you get nothing.
I'd love to see a group like Simon's. They run and own all the malls, South Shore Plaza, and a group like that focuses on retail and anything but residential. That's the whole problem. If you get a person that doesn't focus on,
Well, I
This
mean,
developer
that
is
original
commercial.
plan has called for
Yeah.
equal parts development
God,
for years.
I would think it's commercial. You wouldn't want anything to do with residential.
Yeah, that came up at the public hearing, and I think it was a representative or somebody from Rockland was kind of asking questions along those lines to say, what happened to the notion of commercial development on the site? And the response was, well, we're heavily involved in commercial. We did University Ave as an example, that whole development. And, we're not biased towards residential. If commercial makes the most sense,
Yeah.
and they didn't have any issue with that. But the proof will be in
Yeah.
when it actually gets done or proposed.
So do they have any minimum for commercial, or can they hypothetically just build all residential?
They're asking for flex zoning, I
Yeah,
think,
Right,
right?
but I mean-
The way they wanted this, the latter.
Yeah, but I mean, it essentially means, well, you know, market says residential right now, so all residential, here we go. And then you have a couple of coffee shops and then that's it.
Right.
So, I mean, they're not set on having any major commercial anchors or anything like that, or,
Not from what I heard.
yeah, great. Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of looking exclusive over there.
Come a long way from, we discussed having a mega mall there. Remember that?
Can we go back to the casino?
Oh, yeah, big searchlights,
Golf course.
Go back to the casino and the golf course.
new launch pad for NASA.
So that will be heating up in the fall.
Yep.
I'm sorry, are you on that committee? Are you on the group that's?
No, I just attended.
Just attended.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn, seconded.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for watching our program.